He won a Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 17, y'all. 17. And so I gotta ask the brown person question. How did your family react to you winning the Nobel Peace Prize?
You know, parents always get excited. I'm sure you're aware of that. Like, for them, it was like such a big day, you know. But my brother, little brother, he was like, you know, look, you have won the Nobel Peace Prize, but it doesn't mean you become a bossy sister. So for them, it was like, you know, like, not much has changed. Like, when they come to university to see me and they, like, look at my room and they're so like, can't you clean your room? Have you not changed your bed sheets? What is all this mess? And, like, can you put your clothes, like, back in your wardrobe? And, like, why are all these shoes on the floor? Can you not wash your dishes? Everything. All those sorts of things. So
Do you just say, I'm too busy saving the world, Mom and Dad? Oh, that's incredible. So, you've done so many amazing things for women's education. On behalf of everyone, thank you so much for all of your work. It's incredible. You, of course, created the Malala Fund, and you travel the world, help lots of women. Who are the girls that are being positively impacted by the Malala Fund?
So, you know, there are girls in Nigeria who have faced abduction by the Boko Haram and who escaped from that abduction. And Malala Fund is supporting their education. And, you know, I'm sure you can imagine what miserable, you know, time they have been through. And there are girls in Afghanistan who have seen conflict in their lifetime. And now they're getting quality female teachers who are helping them in their education. There are girls in Iraq, whose stories I've heard and who I met, and you know, they were saying how they escaped from early child marriages, and then in Ethiopia, which I went like this summer, and there were girls who were talking about how, you know, simple things like menstrual hygiene can actually, you know, prevent girls from like going to school because, you know, when they're on their period, they do not feel comfortable to go to school. They do not have the facilities which kind of we take for granted, it's because of, you know, on their way to school, they do not feel safe. And so these are the small things that are preventing us from going to school. And that's why working with local activists is so important. So you can address these small kind of local issues.
Right. I wanted to ask you this question because I think when we talk about funds and causes like women's education, of course, an obvious way to help would be donate, you know, help fund all the things we have going on. But for people watching at home, if they're not able to donate, what can people do to create change? What are some other ways?
You know, in the other ways is kind of to learn about these stories. So we have a digital platform called Assembly. And through that, Malala Fund is sharing the stories of girls from like over 90 countries in different languages. And these girls are coming, you know, it's a platform for girls and by girls in which girls are, you know, finding a platform where they can share their voice. So you can listen to these girls' stories, share those stories, and, you know, raise awareness in your community. Talk to people about how you can, you know, raise awareness about these issues. So whatever step you take, it actually matters. So I really encourage you all to do something for girls' education, so all girls in the world can have access to school.
Mm-hmm. Because it factually would help the world in general, it would help poverty, it would help so many of diseases. So it's such an important effort. Thank you so much once again. We have everyone so incredible. Now, I wanted to ask you, have you been following another young activist by the name of Greta Thunberg?
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard, yes. Have you been following her efforts to fight climate change, and what do you think?
I think it's amazing to see that young girls are taking the leadership for these social changes, and I love it. I think, you know, I always used to say that when I was 11 years old and I was speaking out for my right to education, initially I thought like I had to grow up to change the world, and I realized I don't. You don't have to grow older to change the world. You can change the world right now. I think that's the message that Greta is giving to young people around the world, that, you know, your voice, your activism is so crucial for the change that you want to see for your future.
Ask you something that is nowhere on these cards because you just inspire me so much. How do you think about fear when you are faced in a situation that is scary, which you've been in many times? How do you address that fear?
For me, the scariest situation that I have been through was in Swat Valley when there was terrorism and I could not go to school and more than 400 schools were bombed. Women were not allowed to go outside of their houses. Markets were banned on women. That was one of the scariest things that I have ever seen in my life. I have lived in terrorism. But since then, you know, I realized that when you are on the right path and when you speak the truth, you know, everything in the universe supports you. There's a positive energy around you. So standing up for the good cause is really, really important, being on the right side. But for me, what gave me courage was the support of people. When you have friends, when you have family, when you have people with you, it gives you courage and you realize that you are not alone and there are so many people standing with you. So I think it's important that we help each other.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom.